Can you imagine a Roman emperor kneeling down just to serve as a step for his enemy's boot? This man was the only Roman emperor in history to be taken captive. And what happened to him embarrassed even Rome itself. Today, we're telling the story of how Valerian was turned into a slave by the Persians, how he was humiliated, and why no one came to rescue him. If you're ready, welcome to History Below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more historical stories like this. Throughout its long history, the Roman Empire saw hundreds of rulers rise to the throne. Some were remembered for their wars, others for their reforms. But one of them entered history with such a tragedy that even Rome blushed at the mention of his name. The 3rd century is known as the era of disasters for Rome. Economic collapse, power struggles, the army taking control of politics, famine, plagues. We're talking about a time when the entire imperial order was shattered within just a few decades. And right across from this chaos, a new power was rising in the east, the Sasanian Empire. Founded by Ardashir, this state quickly claimed the legacy of the old Persian Empire and set its sights beyond Iran. His son, Shapur I, openly displayed a hunger for conquest, pushing the two empires toward an inevitable clash. While the Goths attacked from the north, Shapur advanced through eastern Anatolia and Syria. Rome knew it couldn't endure battles on every front, so Emperor Valerian sent his most trusted man, his son Gallienus, to the west to suppress rebellions. Valerian himself marched east with roughly 70,000 soldiers to confront the Persians. At first, things went exactly as Rome hoped. Valerian reclaimed lost territory and scattered the Sasanian forces, forcing them to retreat. However, Emperor Valerian, believing that the Persian king Shapur would return, chose not to withdraw, but instead fell back to Edessa to wait for the Persians. Edessa, in what is now southeastern Turkey, to wait for their return. And then disaster struck. The plague. Tens of thousands of soldiers crowded into one city made food and hygiene impossible. Disease spread among both troops and civilians, weakening the Roman army severely. As the legions deteriorated, news arrived that Shapur was approaching with a massive force. Valerian knew a battle under these conditions would end in catastrophe, so he proposed peace. He even offered a large ransom, but the Sasanians didn't care. The people of Edessa believed the Romans had brought the plague and wanted them gone. And Valerian realized that retreating would leave all of Anatolia wide open to invasion. The emperor couldn't wait any longer and prepared the army for battle. But the Battle of Edessa in 260 became a complete disaster for Rome. The weakened and depleted soldiers couldn't stand against the Persians. They retreated, and the city was besieged again. Trapped by hunger, disease, and despair, Valerian sent Shapur another plea for peace. This time, the Sasanian king offered a strange condition. The two leaders would meet alone, without soldiers, in a neutral area. Valerian accepted the proposal, but when he entered the tent, he walked straight into Shapur's trap. The tent was immediately surrounded by Persian soldiers, and Valerian, Rome's emperor, was taken prisoner, the first Roman ruler in history to be captured alive. Shapur treated Valerian not like a king, but like a servant. According to Roman historians, the Sasanian ruler used Valerian's back as a step to mount his horse, dragged him around in chains, and displayed him like a living trophy. For Rome, this was a humiliation beyond imagination. There are two accounts of how Valerian died. One claims Shapur poured molten gold down his throat after Valerian offered gold in exchange for freedom. The other says he used Valerian as a servant for some time, then had his skin flayed and displayed it in a Persian temple as a victory symbol. Whichever version is true, his end was tragically unworthy of an emperor. Even more shocking, his son Gallienus hid the news of his father's capture for a full year and made no attempt to rescue him. A year later, he simply declared himself the sole ruler. Rome had lost both its emperor and its honor. Valerian's story remains one of the darkest symbols of Rome's decline, a reminder that the fall of an emperor can signal the collapse of an entire age.